Let me ask you something, and be honest with yourself for a second. When you picture the day you finally stop working, is it a relief or is it a question mark? Because here's what nobody tells you. For most of your life, you were handed a number, 65. Work until 65, and everything will be fine. They printed it on the brochures. Your parents believed it. Your boss repeats it. And somewhere along the way, you started believing it too. But I want you to notice something. Nobody ever explained why 65. Nobody showed you the math. They just gave you the number and told you to keep your head down. I kept my head down for 22 years. And the day I finally looked up, I had $7,000 to show for it. So before you bet the rest of your life on that one number, let me tell you the truth about it. The truth I wish somebody had told me at 11 o'clock at night, when it was just me, a banking app, and a feeling in my chest I'll never forget. Stay with me. So let me tell you where 65 actually comes from. Because once you know this, you can't unknow it. The number 65 wasn't chosen by a financial expert. It wasn't calculated by someone who wanted you to have a good life. It came from Germany, the 1880s. A politician named Otto von Bismarck needed a retirement age for a government pension, and he picked a number that sounded reasonable for the time. Here's the part that should stop you cold. Back then, most working men didn't even live to that age. The system was designed around the idea that most people would die before they ever collected a dime. Read that again. The retirement age you've been planning your entire life around was built on the quiet assumption that you wouldn't make it. And we just kept the number. A century and a half later, we're still using it. We bolted it onto a world that looks nothing like the one it came from. People live decades longer now. The cost of everything has multiplied, pensions vanished, and yet there it sits, 65, like a finish line painted on a road that keeps getting longer. I'm not telling you this to scare you. I'm telling you because I lived under that number without ever questioning it. I assumed somebody somewhere had done the homework. I assumed the system was built for me. It wasn't. It was built for a different century, for different lives, for people who weren't expected to be standing where you and I are standing right now. Now here's what that lie actually costs you, not in theory, in real life. When you believe the finish line is 65, you start telling yourself a story. The story goes like this. I've got time. I'll catch up later. When the kids are grown. When the mortgage is smaller. When things settle down. And every one of those sentences feels reasonable in the moment. Every single one. That's the trap. The lie doesn't arrive as a lie. It arrives as a comfortable little later. I said later for 22 years. I was good at my job, great with people. I could walk into any room and close a deal. But the one conversation I kept avoiding was the one with myself. The money conversation. I'll deal with that later. Later showed up at 47. Divorce and a layoff in the same year. Same 12 months. And I opened my banking app expecting to feel tired, and instead I felt something closer to falling. $7,200. 22 years of showing up, of early mornings and long drives and handshakes, and that was the entire weight of it on a screen. And I remember thinking, not in words, more like a cold understanding spreading through my chest, nobody is coming. There's no pension waiting. There's no number that's going to save me just because I reached it. The whole arrangement I'd trusted my whole life was a handshake with nobody on the other end. That's the brutal truth about working until 65. It was never a plan. It was a hope dressed up as a plan. And hope is a beautiful thing to have at a funeral or a wedding. It's a terrible thing to retire on. Now, I want to be careful here because I'm not the guy who tells you the sky is falling and then sells you an umbrella. I've watched those guys. I've paid those guys, and I'll tell you about that later, and it still makes me wince. No. What I want to do is something different. I want to take the number apart with you. Gently. Honestly. The way I had to take it apart for myself before I could build anything real on top of it. Because here's the thing they never mention when they hand you 65. The problem was never just the number itself. The problem is what the number does to you. It makes you passive. It makes you wait. It convinces you that someone else is steering the ship when the truth, the hard, freeing truth, is that the ship has been yours the entire time. And once I understood that, once it really landed, something shifted. Not overnight, not in some dramatic movie moment, but it shifted. I want to show you exactly what shifted. Because that's where this actually turns around. Let me show you the thing that finally woke me up. It wasn't a speech. It wasn't a guru. It was a piece of paper and a pencil at my kitchen table and a number that made my stomach drop. Here's the math nobody sits you down to do. Most people think retirement is about your salary. It isn't. It's about your gap. The gap between what you'll spend and what comes in without you working. Social Security, if you're American, covers a piece of that. But I want you to hear me clearly. It was designed to be a piece, a floor, not the house. For the average person, it replaces somewhere around 40% of what you used to earn. 40%. Ask yourself plainly, could you live on 40% of your paycheck right now? Not someday, today. Most of us can't even imagine it. So there's the gap. And the gap doesn't disappear when you turn 65. It follows you every single month for as long as you live. And here's the part that really got me. We're living longer than any generation in history. That's supposed to be good news. And it is. But if you don't have a plan, living longer doesn't feel like a gift. It feels like a bill that keeps arriving. I'm going to say something now that sounds harsh, and I only get to say it because I lived it. Working until 65 was never the danger. The danger is reaching 65 and realizing the number was the whole plan. That you crossed the line and the line was painted on the ground and it didn't actually mean anything. Let me give you a picture instead of a lecture. Imagine you spend 40 years filling a bucket, drop by drop. And the whole time you assume the bucket is deep because everyone around you talks like it's deep. Then one day you tip it over to drink and you find out it was shallow the entire time. Not because you didn't work, you worked, but because nobody told you the bucket had a crack in it. The crack is inflation. The crack is the pension that disappeared and got replaced with good luck. The crack is the assumption that someone was watching out for you. That was me at 47, staring at a shallow bucket after 40 years of pouring. And here's where most videos would tell you it's too late. That you missed the window. That the only people who retire well are the ones who started at 25 with rich parents and perfect discipline. I almost believed that. I sat in my apartment at 11 at night and I believed I was finished. That the math had already been decided and I'd lost. But the math hadn't been decided. That's the thing I got wrong, and I want to save you from getting it wrong too. Because here's a truth that runs in the exact opposite direction of the panic. Starting late is not the same as being too late. They feel identical when you're lying awake at night. They are not the same thing. One is a fact, the other is a feeling pretending to be a fact. The late starter actually has things the early starter doesn't. Stay with me because this is where it turns. When you start late, you usually earn more than you did at 25. Your peak earning years are right now, your 40s, 50s, even early 60s. The early starter had time but tiny income. You have less time but real income. That's not nothing. That's a different kind of fuel. And then there's something else. Something the system actually built, quietly, almost like an apology, for people who started late. I didn't find out about it until I turned 50. None of my friends knew about it. Nobody at work mentioned it. It had been sitting in the tax code the whole time, just waiting for someone to notice. When I finally understood what it was, it didn't just change my numbers, it changed the way I slept at night. But I'm not going to rush it. Because if I just blurt it out, it'll sound small. It'll sound like a tip. And it's not a tip. It's the thing that took me from drowning to swimming. So I want to build up to it the right way, by first showing you the trap I fell into before I found it. The expensive, embarrassing, completely avoidable trap that ate $4,000 of my last $7,000. Because that's the part nobody admits. That's the part the rented Ferrari crowd will never show you. Let me tell you exactly what I did wrong. So there I was. 47, $7,200. And one feeling louder than all the others, catch up fast. That feeling, that one right there, is the most dangerous feeling in money. Write it down somewhere. The urge to catch up fast is what the whole industry feeds on, because a scared man in a hurry will buy almost anything. And I did. First, crypto. A coworker wouldn't stop talking about it. Every lunch, every break, numbers going up, people getting rich, you're still not in? And I want you to understand the psychology, because it wasn't greed exactly. It was fear wearing greed's clothes. I wasn't trying to get rich. I was trying to not be left behind. So I bought. Near the top, of course, because that's when everyone's talking about it. That's the only time the scared man hears about it. And I watched it slide. Then, day trading. 3 weeks. I thought, I'm smart, I'm good with people. I read the news. How hard can it be? 21 days. $3,400. Gone. Not in some dramatic crash. Just bleeding out, a little every day while I told myself the next trade would fix the last one. That's the quiet way money dies. Not in an explosion. In a slow leak you keep promising yourself you'll stop. And then, this is the one that still makes me wince. $800 for an online course. A young guy in front of a car that wasn't his, in a house he was renting by the hour for the video, promising he'd teach me the secret the banks don't want you to know. There was no secret. Everything in it I could have found for free with an afternoon and a library card. $800 to be told what I already half knew by someone who'd never been where I was. 3 mistakes. $4,200. More than half of everything I had left, lit on fire in a matter of months, by a man who was trying his hardest to be responsible. That's what gets me, even now. I wasn't being reckless. In my mind, I was finally taking action. And that's the cruelest part of the trap. It doesn't feel like falling. It feels like progress. Now, why am I telling you this? Not for sympathy. I'm telling you because I see you. I see the version of you that's tempted right now. The one watching the neighbor brag about some stock. The one getting the ads. The one thinking maybe one big move could fix the gap. And I need to grab you by the shoulders gently and tell you, one big move is not how this is won. One big move is how the last of it disappears. Here's a truth that cost me $4,000 to learn. When you're behind, you don't need a miracle. You need to stop bleeding. That's the whole first step. Before you grow a single dollar, you stop losing them. The scared man's instinct is to swing harder. The wise man's instinct, and I had to become him the hard way, is to put the bat down and just stop striking out. So one night, I stopped. I closed the apps. I stopped looking for the secret. I got quiet. And in that quiet, something almost embarrassing happened. I went to the library, 47 years old, and I checked out 4 books. Plain ones, boring covers, no promises on the front. And I read them the way a drowning man reads a sign that says, "Exit," slowly, twice, underlining. And here's what those books had in common. Not one of them promised to make me rich. Every single one of them was teaching the same unglamorous thing in different words. Spend less than you make. Put the difference somewhere it can grow. Don't touch it. Give it time. Don't be clever. Be consistent. That's it. That was the secret the $800 guy was supposedly hiding. It was free the whole time. It was always free. The reason nobody sells it loudly is that nobody can get rich selling you patience. I built a spreadsheet, a simple one. Income on one side where it actually went on the other. And for the first time in 22 years, I looked at my own life with my eyes open instead of squinting away. It was uncomfortable. There were numbers on there I was ashamed of. But there's a strange peace that comes from finally seeing the thing you've been avoiding. The monster under the bed is always bigger in the dark. The numbers started to move. Not fast, not dramatically. A little every month. And slow money, I learned, has a quality fast money never has. You get to keep it. You get to sleep next to it. But the real turn, the thing that took this from, okay, I'm not bleeding anymore, to, okay, I might actually make it, that came at 50. With one discovery. And I'm finally ready to tell you what it was. I was 50 years old when I found it. And I almost missed it entirely. It wasn't in the $800 course. It wasn't from the coworker. It wasn't on the loud part of the internet. I found it the way you find most things that actually matter, quietly in the small print, while looking for something else. Catch-up contributions. Now stay with me because the name sounds boring, and boring is exactly the disguise it's been hiding behind for years. Here's what it actually is. The government, the same system I'd been cursing for handing me a finish line from the 1800s, had written a rule specifically for people who started late, for people exactly like me. The deal is this: once you cross 50, you're allowed to put significantly more into your retirement accounts every year than everyone younger than you. Thousands more into your 401k, more into your Roth IRA on top of that, every year until you stop working. Let me say what that meant in plain language. The system that I thought was built to leave me behind had quietly built a back door for the people who woke up late. And almost nobody walks through it, because almost nobody knows it's there. I'd worked for 22 years. I had friends in their 50s, smart people, hard workers. Not one of them had ever said the words catch-up contribution to me, not one. It had been sitting in the tax code the whole time, waiting, like a tool left in a drawer in a house I'd lived in my entire life and never opened. And here's why it hit me so hard. Remember the math from earlier? The cruel math of the late starter, less time. Less time is the whole problem. Less time is what makes you panic and buy crypto at the top. Catch-up contributions are the one thing that pushes directly back against the less time problem. They let you pour faster precisely when you have fewer years left to pour. It's almost like the rule was written by someone who understood the exact shape of the fear I was feeling. I sat with my spreadsheet that night and I changed one set of numbers. I added the catch-up amounts in, and I watched the line at the bottom, the where I'll be line, move. Not by a little. It bent. The whole trajectory bent upward, like a road I thought dead-ended suddenly showing a turn I hadn't seen. And something happened in my chest that I hadn't felt in 3 years. It wasn't excitement. I'm wary of excitement now. Excitement is what the scared man feels right before he buys something stupid. No, This was quieter and stronger than excitement. It was the feeling of the floor being solid under my feet for the first time. It was the math finally being on my side. Now I want to be honest about something because this whole channel is built on honesty and I'm not going to break that here. Catch-up contributions are not magic. Nothing is magic. They don't turn $7,000 into a fortune overnight. There is no overnight. If you came here for overnight, I'm the wrong man, and that's the most useful thing I can tell you. What they do is something better than magic. They make the impossible merely hard, and hard you can do. Hard is just consistency wearing work boots. Overnight was always a lie. But hard but possible, that's a life you can actually build. So for the last 5 years, that's exactly what I've done. Every year I max those catch-up limits. Every year I pour as fast as the rule lets me. And the portfolio grows, not in dramatic leaps, but steadily, the way a tree grows. You don't see it move. You just look up one season and realize there's shade where there used to be sun. I'm 55 now, 8 years from that night with the banking app and the $7,000. And I am not going to stand here and tell you I've arrived. I haven't. I'm still climbing. I'll tell you that every time because the day I pretend I've arrived is the day I become the guy in front of the rented car. But here's what's different. For the first time in my adult life, I sleep through the night. That's the part I didn't expect. I thought the goal was a number, a pile big enough to feel safe. And the number matters, sure. But the thing that actually changed wasn't in the account. It was in me. It was the difference between lying awake doing desperate math in the dark and closing my eyes knowing the plan is sound and the math is on my side, and tomorrow I just have to keep doing the unglamorous thing. Now, there's a piece of this I haven't told you yet. Because catch-up contributions are the engine, but an engine needs a road. And the road is the part where most late starters still get lost, even after they find the engine. It's the part about when and how you actually pull the money, Social Security timing, the order you draw things down, the window you've got before the rules change again. Let me walk you down that road, because this is where the okay becomes safe. So you've got the engine, you've stopped bleeding, you're pouring fast through the catch-up door. Now comes the part almost nobody plans for, the road. Because building the money and using the money are two completely different skills, and the second one trips up people who did everything else right. Let's start with the one most people get backwards, Social Security timing. Here's the instinct. You hit 62, you're tired. The option's right there, so you take it. Grab it while you can, right? And I understand that instinct in my bones because the late starter is always a little afraid the rug will get pulled. But listen carefully. For most people, taking it the moment you're eligible is one of the most expensive decisions you'll ever make. Every year you wait up to 70, your monthly check grows permanently. Not a little, substantially. It's one of the only guaranteed raises left in the entire system, and most people turn it down out of fear and fatigue. I'm not telling you the right answer for your life. That depends on your health, your work, your whole picture, and I'm not your advisor. I'm telling you that the decision deserves a calm afternoon and a clear head, not a tired shrug at 62. The difference between a rushed claim and a planned one can be the difference between scraping by and being comfortable for the rest of your life. Now the second piece, the order you pull your money. This sounds technical. It isn't. Think of it like a meal. You don't eat dessert first and then wonder why you're sick later. There's an order, which accounts you draw down first, which you let keep growing. How you keep yourself from getting pushed into a higher tax bracket by your own retirement. Done thoughtfully, the same pile of money lasts years longer. Same money, just a smarter order. That's not a trick. That's just refusing to leave money on the table out of ignorance. which, if you remember, is the whole sin that got us into this in the first place. And the third piece, the one with a clock on it. There's a window after you stop working, but before certain rules kick in, where you can quietly move money from one type of account to another and pay less tax doing it. The Roth conversion window, it doesn't stay open forever. And most people never even know they're standing in front of it before it closes. I'm in mine right now, planning it carefully, 1 year at a time. Now I want to pull back from the details for a second because I don't want you to drown in terms. That's the opposite of what I'm here for. Let me give you the thing underneath all three. Every one of those, the Social Security timing, the drawdown order, the conversion window, they all come from the same shift. The shift from being a passenger to being the driver. For 22 years I was a passenger. I let the number drive. I assumed the road was someone else's job. And the moment I took the wheel, even late, even scared, even with $7,000 in shaking hands, everything started to change. Not because I got smarter overnight, because I got responsible. Those are different things, and the second one is available to you tonight, for free, no course required. Here's a metaphor I keep coming back to. For most of my life, I treated my future like the weather, something that just happens to you, that you brace for, that you complain about. And the truth is, your future isn't the weather, it's a garden. The weather you can't control. The garden you can. You decide what goes in the soil. You decide whether you water it or ignore it. You don't get to control whether it rains, but a tended garden survives a drought that wipes out a neglected one. I neglected mine for 22 years. Then I started tending it at 47. And here's the quiet miracle nobody tells the late starter. A garden does not care when you started. It only cares that you start and that you keep showing up. That's the whole thing. That's the brutal truth turned gentle. They sold us a number and called it a plan. The number was never the plan. You are the plan. You always were. The system was never going to come tend your garden. But the soil's still here. The seeds are still cheap. And the back door, the catch-up door, is still open. Right now, tonight, for anyone over 50 willing to walk through it. I need to tell you one more thing before we close this out. Something about the man you'll be on the other side of this. Because the number, the safety, the comfortable retirement, that was never actually the point. I know that sounds strange coming from a finance channel, but stay with me because this last part is the part I'd most want my younger self to hear. If you're still here with me this far into the video, I want to stop for just a second and say something directly to you. Subscribe to the channel. Come back and walk this road with me every day. I'm not building this for the people who already have it figured out. I'm building it for you, the one watching at 11 at night with that feeling in your chest. If that's you, hit subscribe and let's keep going together. Because I'll be honest about something. The night I sat alone with that banking app, what I wanted more than money was to know I wasn't the only one. And if you're feeling that right now, you're not. There's a whole quiet army of us out here, late starters, head down, tending the garden. So leave a comment, tell me where you're starting from. I read them. You'd be amazed how much it helps just to say it out loud to someone who gets it. Now, back to the thing I promised, the man on the other side. Here's what I didn't understand at 47 staring at $7,000. I thought my problem was the money. It wasn't. The money was just the messenger. The real problem was that for 22 years, I'd been living like the future was someone else's responsibility. I outsourced my own life to a number from the 1800s and a system that never promised me anything. And the panic I felt that night, that wasn't really about the $7,000. It was the sound of finally waking up to my own life. And here's the strange gift in that. The money problem, it turns out, is solvable. Slowly, unglamorously, with catch-up contributions and patience and a boring spreadsheet. Solvable. But the thing that got fixed along the way was bigger than the money. I became someone who faces things instead of avoiding them. Someone who opens the bank app instead of flinching from it. Someone who tends the garden instead of cursing the weather. And that man sleeps at night. Not because his number is finished, because he finally trusts himself to handle whatever comes. That's the transformation nobody puts in the brochure. They sell you the destination. Nobody tells you the real prize is who you have to become to get there. Think about it. The version of you that's scared right now, doing desperate math in the dark. I'm not going to insult you and tell you that fear is bad. That fear is the most useful thing you have if you let it move you instead of freeze you. The same fear that made me buy crypto at the top is the fear that redirected made me read 4 books and build a spreadsheet and find the back door at 50. Same fear. 2 completely different men, depending on which way I pointed it. So here's the question that actually matters. Not, how much do I have? The real question is, starting tonight, which man am I going to be? The one who waits for 65 and hopes? Or the one who takes the wheel, late and scared and imperfect, and drives anyway? Because the road's the same length either way. The years are going to pass whether you tend the garden or not. 5 years from now arrives no matter what you do. The only question is whether 5 years from now you is standing in shade you planted or staring at the same empty soil, wishing you'd started the night you watched this video. I know which one I'd want for you. Let me bring this home. So let's go back to where we started. That number, 65. A number a politician picked in the 1800s for a world where most people died before they reached it. A finish line painted on the ground that doesn't actually mean anything. We built our whole lives around it. Our parents believed it. We inherited the belief like an old coat that doesn't fit anymore, but we keep wearing because it's the only one we were handed. And I'm asking you tonight to take the coat off. Not in anger, not in panic. The panic is the part I'd save you from if I could. I'm asking you to take it off the way you set down something heavy you didn't realize you'd been carrying, with relief. Because here's the truth I've been walking you toward this whole time. The lie was never that retirement is hard. Retirement is hard, especially late. The lie was that someone else was handling it, that a number would save you, that the system was watching out for you. Nobody's coming. And I know that sounds bleak, but sit with it one more second because it's the most freeing sentence I ever learned. Nobody's coming, which means it was always only you. And you are enough. You always were. You were just waiting for permission you never needed. I started at 47 with $7,200 and a feeling like falling. I lost 4,000 of it being scared and in a hurry. Then I got quiet. I read. I found the back door at 50. I've spent 5 years pouring through it as fast as the rule allows. I'm 55 now. I'm not there yet. But I sleep through the night. And 8 years ago, that man, the one at the kitchen table doing desperate math in the dark, he would not have believed you if you told him that was possible. He would not have believed that the way out wasn't a miracle, wasn't a secret, wasn't a stock tip, that it was just patience and one rule the system buried, and the decision to stop being a passenger in his own life. The garden doesn't care when you started. It only cares that you start. So plant something tonight, even something small. Even just opening the account you've been avoiding. Even just doing the math you've been afraid to do. That's the seed. The rest is only showing up. If this reached you, if you felt even one moment of that's me, do 2 things for me. Share this with 5 people. I mean it. 5. Somewhere out there are 5 people you know lying awake with that same feeling in their chest, certain they're the only ones, certain it's too late. It isn't too late. Be the person who tells them. Be the man I went looking for at 11 o'clock at night and couldn't find. And subscribe so we can keep walking this road together. Because I document every step of this in real time, the wins and the mistakes both, and I'm not done climbing. Then leave me a comment. An honest one. Tell me where you're starting from and tell me what you want me to talk about next. The part of this that scares you most. The question you've been too embarrassed to ask anywhere else. Ask it here. This is the room for it. I was you 8 years ago. The soil's still here. The door's still open. Go plant something.